Hello everyone and welcome to NERDGOBLIN Art. I'm Lula. Right then, it is a lot of axolotls.
What would you like to... Please repeat.
Typical. Anyway, I'm not even going to bother cutting that out. So it's Saturday and it's a lot of axolotls, and it's a collaboration that happens the first Saturday of each month. This is the second one we're doing after we did the initial one, which was arranged and sorted by Erica at Kitschy Kitten Studios. I deserve a medal every time I get that right, if I got it right. So what am I doing in the car outside? Well, we're gonna pop to the garden centre to go and check out some axolotls. Of course, why not? Hello again and welcome to NERDGOBLIN Art. I of course am Lula. So axolotls, they were a little bit quiet today, but never mind. So I am using these chameleon flakes, dragon and silver, from the Tiny Turner, and I purchased them via Toonpish Crafts, so I will link those in the description box below. Now flakes are messy, but they're beautiful. Look at these. Now, I'm not burnishing them in. No. I am going to just use my handy dandy tweezers here, and I'm gonna let them go and let the static take it. Just like this. And I'm gonna zoom in a moment so you can actually see. It's actually quite fun. So I'm just letting the static take it away. And you can do it pretty tidy if you're concentrating, and at this point I was concentrating until a bit later on when I decide to do my new baby axolotl, which is a surprise for later. So I'm also using the silver flakes. Now I'm aware that axolotls don't tend to look like this, but this isn't a normal axolotl. This is a fantasy NERDGOBLIN special axolotl. Check that out! Whee! I love it. It's so much fun. And I'm not going to burnish this in at all. Wherever this has landed, it's where it's going to live, basically. And yeah, and that's the fun part about it. And I do exactly the same with the baby-sized axolotl, which I had kind of sitting on this mould when I'd done it, and I got distracted and I made an absolute mess. But never mind, it's easily cleaned up with some sticky tape. So I just want to make sure that I've got a little bit of a combination of the colours in the limbs and up in the tail as well as the head. Now, if you have had the chance to use this mould at all, you will know that it is a bit of a nightmare where the gills are concerned, or the flaps, as I'm still blaming Tim, the base resonator, the flaps. It has become a running joke among the crafting community. So I do apologise, but it is quite funny. So look, that's cool. That's funky stuff. So next I'm going to get ready with some resin. And I lost footage. So I do apologise for that, but I am using Apex 1:1 resin. It is a fantastic resin and I've already mixed it. So now I'm adding my black mica powder. Now this is a preferred one. I like purchasing it. It comes in a nice big tub, as you can see, and it does last me for ages. Now this cup on the right is I try to use these cups as often as possible. I reuse and reuse them. So that one already got like cured black resin, that's the word, that's what we call it, at the bottom of the cup. So it's not already been mixed, or I've not already put any in. So I'm just making sure that that is nicely mixed in and there are no clumps of the mica powder left, because of course that can interfere with your make in the end. I've split them into the 2 cups after them going into the mixer so that I can pop them into my debubbler. You don't always have to use a debubbler if you are gentle and you stir these slowly. But this mould, so they've been in the debubbler, this mould is a little teeny weeny bit troublesome where the bubbles are concerned. Now it's not the design isn't bad at all. This is a Let's Resin mould and I love it, but it's the gills. That's where a lot of us are having a lot of issues. So I've made sure that there weren't really any flakes going down into there, and I'm going to use my pointed silicone tool now, just to try and make sure that the resin is going where it needs to be, and also giving them a little bit of a squeeze, which will encourage any bubbles to come out, which would be the cause of the problem. So this is the reason why I've used the debubbler today, because I didn't want to have extra work where bubbles are concerned. And yeah, I'm happy with trying it this way. I'm also pouring from high, and I do apologise for getting my hand in the way. I got a new camera arm and it's I'm still trying to get used to it, the positioning of it. But, you know, are you a YouTuber if you don't go off camera or get your hand or your head or something in the way? So as you can see there, I'm giving it a good squeeze and a little tap before it is completely full. And don't forget the tail. And don't do what I did when I first ever had this mould. I put too much of the resin in and then I squeezed the tail, and what happens? It squelched up and went over the sides. So remember that. That's why it's best to do it before you've completely filled it up. And pouring from higher will also make bubbles pop on the way down. So that's also handy too. And with this mould, always bearing in mind that he's got little toes. Those little toes can be pesky, so make sure your resin has gone all the way. You can use your silicone tool as well to encourage the movement. And once you're happy, you can give a little spray of some isopropyl alcohol. You could even use your heat gun, but I wouldn't recommend using the heat gun when it's at your halfway if you want to try and encourage any bubbles away from the chin area. That's where I tend to get the majority of issues, and it's the same with the froggy mould. And sometimes I have noticed you do get a few bubbles in the neck as well on the other side. But there we go. So here's the little baby axolotl I mentioned. Now I got this guy on Temu. It's lovely. And we're just gonna pokey down into there. Just like that. It's because this one's got little mini gills. And look, I just dropped it. I was so busy concentrating on making sure that the gills were seen to that I let some resin just dribble out from the end of the tail, but scooped it up as much as possible. And you can see I did make a mess in the end. I did, but there we go. It's fine. Everything's fine. Everything is gonna be absolutely fine. So, axolotls. And being a lot of axolotls is a collaboration. It started off as just like one of those one-off collaborations which Erica arranged from Kitschy Kitten Studios. It's a mouthful. I'm sorry, Erica, but it is. For some of us that, you know, don't speak properly. And words are hard. Yeah, so it's a collaboration, and then we all enjoyed it so much, we said, why don't we do it like a monthly thing? So the first Saturday of every month. So here we are. So this is a matte mould, and we're not going to see the full beauty of this guy. It's still very, very pretty. The matte is beautiful just as well, but I will be giving this a coating of UV resin to make him lovely and shiny. The mould, the unmoulding, the unmouldiness of this mould. Oh my days. It's quite tricksy. I didn't struggle at all on the first 3 times I've used this mould, but I think it's because I did overfill it in a few bits. I find that taking the limbs out and then the tail, but I did have a little bit of issue on this occasion with the head. You've got to be careful of the gills. This is fully cured. I not only left it on the heat mat, but I also left it until the following day because I run out of energy, and this became a little bit of a two-part job. I'll often do these all in one day using my heat mat, but I left it till the following one on this occasion, and it was a little bit tricksy to get out, so I'm wondering if slightly softer is easier. But check him out. It's so pretty. I love this effect of just dropping in the flakes. The first person I saw doing it was Miss Sheila from Reptiles and Resin, and I've done it a few times on a few different type of things, but it is so beautiful. And admittedly, I got quite a bit of silver into the head, but I don't mind that at all. I think this is stunning. And there are so many different colours in that, in the dragon flake. It truly is. It's magical. And you know what? You know me, if you've been with me a while. Hello. If you've been with me a while, you know that I love the magical. So, I'm debating on wings. I was thinking of like a Draxolotl, like a winged, obviously wings, but what kind of wings? So, look, sorry, I changed the angle because when I unmolded, it was actually quite dark, and I just wanted to bring it down to show you more of that colour flexing in a bit of a better light. Ooh, swimming away. Anyway. So I debated and I pulled out these like skeleton leaves. So I've already made one set of wings. So there you go. And I'm going to show you how I did that. It's quite simple. You could use a glue gun. Your glue gun might be a little bit easier, but I've used the UV resin. So I just gather them into the position that I like. Now, in my mind, these are more fairy, fae type shape. Yeah, very magical, I thought anyway. So I'm just pouring it down there and just applying a small amount of the UV resin and curing it with my torch. And I'm making sure that I'm doing this both the top and then turning it over and doing the other side. And if I feel like it, just like I'm doing here, I'm adding another little dash of that. Now, with using these types of skeleton leaves, they can be a little bit fragile. So whether you'd want to potentially coat them in resin beforehand or Mod Podge them, it's completely up to you, but I chose not to, and then I split one. But that's fine because you can fix them later if you really want to. But you know, maybe it's just part of the way this is, you know. Butterflies get like torn wings and stuff and things like that. But anyway, I'm going to make a frame now, not an entire one, but I've got out my wire. This is just the wire that I tend to purchase for making armatures when I'm using clay. And I've just tied a knot and then another knot, and I've put the wire through, which has created that little nubby bit there, which will help to attach. So I'm going to shape it round, and I'm only going to be adding it to the outer parts. If I so wanted, I could also do some other parts just to make the wings extra strong. But this isn't a toy, this is a feature, like an ornament, a lovely piece to look at. So it shouldn't be getting handled and played with anyway. So I don't mind, and I want it to look delicate. Just like this. And I've just used my other tool just to curl over the top of the metal just to give, so it's not sharp, and plus it gives it a little point of interest as well. And again, I'm using my UV resin to secure it in place. A few little dabs. I'm not doing it all at once, so I'm just taking my time. This is sped up slightly because I'm just aware of other creators, and I didn't want to impede too much on other people's time in case, you know, there are a few videos at this, you know, the time that I tend to post videos seems to be quite popular, so I didn't, like I said, want to impede. Now I really like it, and I like that piece sticking out at the end. So I'm going to keep that, I'm going to leave that in. I think it really adds to it. Now I know I've made wings quite a few times now, but I think I've shown you a few different ways and a few different ideas. And this is just something a little bit extra and a little bit different. And it's not too difficult either. And these things, they are cheap, they are very inexpensive, and you can get them from all sorts of hobby shops, and you can get them online, so that you're able to get them. So I've been using these a few times lately, only because I found them again after putting them away and forgetting that I had them. So these are also from Temu, and they are just little resin fillers, and they're like little fish. And they've got a bit of an iridescence about them, which is quite pretty. And I just thought that it would look quite nice because axolotls live in water. I just thought, you know, just to embellish the wings just that tiny little bit, and to potentially disguise that little blob of the UV resin where I attach them together. You know, I thought that it looked quite nice actually. So just resining them on, and because these are quite iridescent, you can kind of, the UV light can penetrate through it. But just in case, I'm doing a little bit front and back, just to make absolutely sure that it's nice and secure there. And I think they look absolutely beautiful. It really suits it, really pretty. So nice. I don't even mind that little tear in the wing, well, in the leaf I should say, but as I say, it is fixable. So this little guy, I nearly started doing it without hitting record, and I put a little bit on the head and then realised I hadn't hit the record button, but thankfully I remembered. So it's this simple. If you have a matte mould, you can do this. If you don't want to do this, you can always use a gloss varnish, but I find this is nice, quick and easy. Just putting a small amount over using my finger. Now, I've had this little mould for a little while, and again, I believe this was from Temu. It may have been from Amazon, but you can get them in both places. And I'm using the smaller wings on this guy, the tiniest ones that are there. I decided that the baby axolotl is really very small, and I don't have anything really other than making my own wings, which I've done before using wire and UV resin. So I've decided just to go for this, and I'm going to add into that resin, and I'm going to do 2 pours into this, is that I'm just using these are chameleon flakes, and I believe they're called green, and they're the LOULAHALL resin ones, and I just dropped them in, just as you saw there, into the UV resin before I cure it, and just tapped it down. While that's being cured, I'm going to figure out where I want these wings positioned on the axolotl, and I'm going to be using my drill to go into there. Now, just be careful. I was really scared of doing something like this, but Mr. Goblin sorted me out with this little drill. This is mine. It lives in my stash now. It lives on my shelf of handy things, and yeah, I've got confident with it. I just hold it firm, and I just remember to use the reverse out so you don't get stuck or anything. And it's just a case of checking that it's gonna fit. I even know how to change the sizes in that of that drill bit now as well. Woo! Power! I have the power. So I'm just trying to line up for the second one and just get rid of that bit of resin that's come out. Yeah, so I'm just trying to line it up. Any normal person I know would measure it properly and maybe use a ruler or something. I use the silicone tool to figure out, oh, that's lined up. It's not. I still manage to not get it quite right, but it's me. I can't even cut straight, so and I think even if I did try and like measure or something like that and do something very sensible like that, I think I would still get it off center or whatever. And I'm just using a dotting tool just to make sure that any excess resin has come out of those holes that I drilled in. And once again, you can use glue for this, but as usual, Lula is impatient, so Lula's going to use UV resin. I do put a dot of glue over afterwards just for extra security, but this works just fine because I can get my torch into all sorts of positions going around the mould, and I even secure it around the outside as well, and you'll see me doing that in a moment with my silicone tool. But yeah, E45 is it? E45's a skin cream. E6000 E45, oh my goodness, that's for like itchy rashes and stuff like that, and burns, so and sometimes tattoos. So yeah, don't use that on your molds or for gluing. It's not going to work. E6000 or any kind of really good super glue that works with mixed things like metals and resin. But as you could see there, just using the silicone tool, dotted into the UV resin and gone around the edges as well, just to make sure it's nicely in there. And there we go. And because it's on the wire, you can still slightly move them and reposition them if you want to. I'm also using my tool just to squidge down the metal wire nubs that I created, just to ensure that they can fit into there. Now you can see here that it is slightly offline, but it's fine. It's fine. It's an axolotl with fairy wings. It's my invention, and some of them are born this way. And I'm going to stick to that one. So there. Oh dear. And I do tear it. Look, I teared it because I was being too rough, too rough. But it's fine. It's fine because I can fix it, and I do. So there. At some point. Yeah, but it's working, and I am very, very happy with it. You just got to remember not to be too heavy-handed, as I just was. I just forgot that I was holding something a little more delicate than usual. But that's why I suggested that you may want to Mod Podge them beforehand, or spray varnish them, just to give them that little bit of extra, protection from the heavy-handedness. So there we go. I'm so pleased. Aren't they pretty? They're so pretty. They're so magical. I love them. There we go. Right, so this has come out of the UV lamp, and I'm just putting on the second and last little layer of the UV resin, and it's just the UV resin. Now, for this type of thing to work, you need to make sure that your lamp, you got a good lamp and you cure both front and back. Now, this fairy axolotl needs a crown. Now, I looked at all the different colours, but the silver, I know there's a lot of silver in the axolotl's head, but it doesn't suit it. None of the other colours that I have suit it. And he had to have a crown because he's special. So there we are. And I'm happy anyway, and it's mine. And I just put a little blob of the UV resin into the middle of the crown, and I acted very quickly. Hello. So that is the axolotl done. And look at this baby one. You see what I mean? Once you have the UV covering, it really brings out those matte ones. But there's nothing wrong with matte either if that is what you're going for. So the little wings are done now. They're fully cured. They've been done both front and back, and I've done it in 2 layers, as I said. These ones are quite handy because they come with, almost like the shape, so you're able to get that, flush up against your model of whatever you're doing. Dip it in a little bit of UV resin, fiddle around like me, cappy-handed, small things trying to handle, and just use your torch. And I'm also going to be putting this under the lamp. Both axolotls go under the lamp for a good 5 minutes each, just to ensure that any UV resin I've used is fully cured. You may have noticed as well that I've not done anything with the eyes. Reason being, I think that where the resin, the flakes landed, I don't think it needs it. I think that it looks magical and special, just as it is. So I'm not doing anything with the eyes. I just think that they look awesome as they are. And why? Sometimes it's good just to know when to stop. And as creators, artists, crafters, we can all really struggle to stop and just not go any, just to leave it alone and go, do you know what? It's fine. So it is fine, and I am happy to leave it. So here they are. Look at him with his little wings. He's so cute and so colourful, isn't it? It's a baby one, and it's magical. I'm in love. It's so cute. And here is the big mama axolotl fairy queen with her crown and her beautiful. This was fun. This really was fun, and look at all her colours. She is so colourful, and she got dropped. I caught her, don't worry, but look at her. I hope you check out everybody's videos. There are so many talented artists that take part in this. It's down below the playlist, so please check them out. Love you and stay weird.
Nerd Goblin art draws a magic worlds, with foxes that prance and badgers that dance, a whirlwind of dreams with a single glance. Gerald the alligator grins so wide, in enchanted waters he loves to hide. Dragons breathe wonder with flames so bright, each creature born from a magic night. Nerd Goblin paints life in every brush, animals frolic in a vibrant rush, from canvases to tales